Hello and welcome to Fixation, where us and our guests talk about their fiction fixations. I'm Seffi, usually on these shows as a guest or a friend, today hosting, and my guest today is the big pie slice himself, Mr. Daniel Radford.
Hello, I'm doing the guest thing today. It feels very weird. It's also weird you introduced yourself as Sephi when we usually use your actual name.
I am not used to that, but that's okay.
Oh
My
man.
actual name is John. Now you all know, and you have to live with that. That's Mr. Kernan.
Yeah, because
But
none of them have heard the entire other podcast or your episode which came before this.
Today we're going to be talking about your fixation, upright.
Yeah, that's the plan anyway.
I haven't gotten all the way through the show, which is going to make the conversation the slightest bit lopsided, but I figured that would be okay, because after all, it's supposed to be your fixation. I thought it'd be good to let you have a little more to say about it than me. I just wanted to make sure I understand it first, and I think I definitely understand the vibe and most of the core themes of this show now, though I haven't obviously gotten around to the super big important bits, but like it, like the vibe. And so far, I've enjoyed pretty much all the Australian media I've come across, so that's not too big a surprise.
You could be forgiven for not knowing because our film industry and all that is not nearly as big as the US for starters. But also because of region blocking and copyright law and stuff like that, and just I don't know, us being so far away as well. So the physical trade, when that was relevant, was a less of a factor and things like that. My understanding is actually pretty hard to get access to a lot of Aussie media in other countries, especially the US and parts of Europe, and it's very unfortunate because we have a lot of good media here.
Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, few countries have more things from outside that are banned in them as far as shows and movies go, and fewer countries have as many things that just never quite make it out to usually specific other places. I don't know why, but there is like not nearly as much cross-pollination as there should be between Australia and like really just some of the other
Anywhere.
first world countries that especially that Australia, as far as I know, generally gets along well with. There's otherwise a lot of meeting and scraping between Australia and the US. I've met I've met more Australians than I have people from most other countries outside of the US.
Like musicians and actors will actually move to the US as well from here. So there's like a lot of fairly big name actors are actually Australian.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot who some who just always present as Australian, but there's a decent number who get really good at doing American or American and English accents instead of letting the Aussie slink out, which is always very jarring when you see them in interviews if you never knew, because suddenly they're talking in your in their normal voice, and you're like, oh, that's what you sound like. Damn, good acting,
Friggin' Hugh Jackman's American slash Canadian accent is so good that I didn't know he was Australian
right?
until
Right? It's
long
jarring
after
the
first
first
seeing
time.
X-Men. I was like, wait, what?
He's just been a Tasmanian devil the whole time. Not a Wolverine at all.
But yeah, as far as Upright goes, the guy who's responsible for its creation and a lot of it, the writing behind it, Tim Minchin, did pretty well over in the UK, but as far as I'm aware, never really broke into stuff in the US, which is really unfortunate because he's a very gifted comedian. He's a very, very good musician and a very creative guy who's created or been involved in the creation of a lot of really good media.
Yeah, Upright has definitely made me want to see more of him and his stuff.
You'd be very surprised the difference in tone between the musical comedy and Upright, I think.
Probably, but it's always worth the experience for stuff like that. It's There's a lot of good stuff out there, but some stuff isn't just good, but it's good in the way that you can specifically tell that you are getting a piece of the creator and be like, "Oh, well, I just like this creator."
Yeah. It's because I enjoyed his comedy and stuff like that actually that I decided to give Upright a go because I was told, "Hey, did you know he like made this entire TV show?" And I was sort of like, "No, actually," and I gave it a go and I didn't know what I was expecting going into it. I had no idea like how emotionally deep it was going to be. I was expecting it to be a lot maybe quite intelligent probably, but goofy, you know what I mean? And it definitely has its goofy moments and its witty moments, but it ended up being a lot more of a poignant, heartfelt experience than I was expecting.
Yeah, Upright seems like whether both when it's being funny, when it's being serious, and even when it's just being kind of mean and irreverent, comes straight from the heart.
We've talked about this on the other podcast before, how dramedy is generally my favorite version of comedy because it adds a sense of poignancy and the contrast is really fun to like experience and play around with and it just hits different. And Upright is so good with about that, where 1 minute it is making you genuinely like laugh hysterically at how unfortunate these people are, and then the next moment it's hitting you with this an emotional beat because all of these characters are just dealing with so much real baggage, you know, it's constantly contrasting this really over the top, some even occasionally slapstick comedy with these very grounded dramatic beats, and it gives it such a unique vibe. Dramedy in whole as a whole does that, to be fair, but
Yeah, the contrast really does a lot to sharpen both the comedy and like the serious, heartfelt stuff, especially the tragedy. Like, you know, when I felt that really hard in a moment where the comedy was sharpening something sad that had already been hinted at and wasn't even being gone into yet.
like I
It
mean,
was,
many options for that. So,
yeah, but a relatively early, well, I guess not super early, but a fairly early-ish one. When they're running across the Pink Sea and he's chasing her and trying to stop her and getting her to calm her down, and suddenly just Meg's like, "Oh, you reckon it's a breast cancer thing?" And I was like, in my head for just a second, I was like, "Well, I don't really think that makes great sense unless this is specifically one of the Earth's boobs." But
well, no, it's
and
because
then
it's pink.
suddenly, yeah, I know. And then I suddenly had this little shock, and I went to like, "Oh no, his mom was wearing a pink cap in the video." And I was like,
Hmm.
mm,
Yeah.
oh no.
Yeah, to give you guys some context for that, Upright is a story about this guy, Lucky, real name Lachlan, ironically nicknamed Lucky, who lives in Sydney and is currently at introduction traveling across from Sydney to Perth to go back to where his family are because his mum is dying. And he's bringing this piano, an upright piano, with him. That's where the name of the show comes from, but along the way gets in a car accident with this girl Meg, who is a teenage runaway basically, and totals his car and also breaks her arm or her wrist, I guess. So she
That's
is no
really
longer,
awkward.
yeah, she's no longer really able to drive properly because it's a manual ute she's driving, truck for you Americans. Uh,
Oh, I thought you was like a specific model or brand. I didn't realize it was just the word.
well, you guys would call it like a pickup or a pickup truck, right? That's a ute.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
And he no longer has a car, but is capable of driving. So they end up basically road tripping across the base of Australia, across the Nullarbor Plain in her ute with this piano on the back. And it's this like this bizarre, messed up, damaged duo of people on a road trip effectively. dealing with all of their emotional baggage and also getting into this progressively more outlandish situations, largely because they are both socially dysfunctional, damaged people.
Balanced perfectly by the fact that not only do they have all that, but they are also both going out of their way to not say anything at all about any of the shit that they're going through. They're they're determined not to make it personal and open up about everything, even as it becomes increasingly obvious that the exact issues they're not opening up about are bleeding through and causing a bunch of crap anyways.
Yeah, and there is so much friction between the two of them because of their specific brands of issues and things like that.
Yeah. Like Meg though. She's real clever.
Meg has the most colorful dialogue.
I love her absolute lack of hesitation to just do whatever she has to be the one in control of the situation when something is about to go bad, in including just being like, "Yep, love you, Dad. Sign my hospital papers. Sign the hospital papers, or I'll yell to everyone that you're a pedophile."
Yeah, like lucky to see like and she's not quiet about it either. Like
Nope.
so
No
it's very
subtlety.
yeah, very clear that she is running from something argu almost certainly familial and
Yeah.
is now
Otherwise, how does a 16-year-old, although technically legally, end up in the middle of, I don't know if that would be part of the outback, but like one of the biggest chunks of
oh yeah,
Australian
no,
desert I know of.
it's the middle of nowhere.
Like,
You actually see them go past Kimber, right? In one of
mm,
the earlier episodes, which is the exact dead center along the base of Australia.
okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Going through literally the middle of nowhere, just like when we did my fixation episode, um, like in well maintained, but definitely been there, done that, Ute, like by herself, doing whatever she has to make sure specifically that nobody who might get suspicious is going to be trying to make any calls home.
Yeah. They are they are both people who are running from things that are familial in nature. Even though Lucky is actively heading towards home, he is still very avoidant about facing the problems there.
I mean, he's so terrified of it, he can't handle it without drugs.
Yeah, he is on some pretty strong anxiety medication to help him deal with it, which he loses in that same episode that we were just talking about with the footy match.
That reminds me, one of the few times of her not having any idea what was going on that I was almost ready to be like, Lucky, you piece of trash, was when he was like, which I lost now, mostly thanks to you. And I'm like, oh, you mean the medicine that fell out when you started to steal the truck? The medicine that stole out and blew away when you were stealing the truck of a 16-year-old girl whose arm you broke?
Because you drove out into her.
You motherfucker.
I mean that, but see, that's the thing I love about these characters, right? They are not nice people. In a lot of ways, they're not even good people at the surface level. Like deep down, there is good not in them. But
Absolutely.
but they are messy, damaged people that are dealing with very real world problems.
And at the moment, they are slaves to those
Yeah,
problems.
I don't know how much you want me to go into it, specifically what they're dealing with, because I know that you're only on episode 4.
Hey man, we're talking about your fixation. You go into it as much as possible, and when I can go through and watch it later, I'll be fine. You're not going to spoil anything for me.
Okay, so for the context, I suppose we can start with Lucky because Lucky used to be in a band with his brother, right? And it appears, and at some point their relationship has been horribly damaged, and he's gone off to Sydney from Perth because their band like broke up. And at first, it seems like a lot of the negativity and stuff like that is because of the breakup of the band, because his brother went on to like settle down with a woman and get like a real quotation marks real job as like a project manager. And it seems like that's what the problem is. But the more we learn about it, we learn that, for one thing, Lucky has always been the sort of person who avoids his problems like the plague, and they just pile up and get worse and worse and worse, right?
I had a feeling it was going to be something like that. As soon as I saw that text Meg was spying on that said, "You're a fucking coward, you know that?" I was like, "Oh,
Yeah, he has always had that. It's why he's avoidant about the situation with his mum. It's why he avoids dealing with anything. And he's been like that since he was a kid. Even just the way his feelings, he shunts them aside and hides from them and runs from them. His relationships, he runs from them instead because doesn't want to hurt himself or others.
they present him perfectly because it's only just hitting me now, but between his messed up dirty appearance and the way he's always running away and trying to basically scuttle from place to place, he's perfectly being presented as in the mindset of a bug right now.
Yeah.
Because what he's constantly saying is, I just want to go here. Why is everybody always stepping on me? But what it actually is he wants nothing more deep into every fiber of his being right now than to crawl into a hole and just be there and not deal with anything at all ever.
Yeah. And here's the thing, right? It gets more complicated because his whole thing with burying his feelings and things like that to try and avoid problems has always gone on, including the fact that he had feelings for the same person who married his brother.
I had a feeling from that very first flashback, the way he
Yeah.
was looking at her.
And one night, she showed up on his doorstep, drunk
Oh no.
and angry and upset because his brother was always away for work. And they get into it. And to be fair, he has always treated her pretty badly because he's trying to keep his distance from her.
Mm-hmm.
And she like calls him on it basically. And because they're both drunk at that point, because she gets him drinking as well, it all spills out.
Mm.
And he sort of comes clean and is like, no, the problem's not that I hate you, the problem's that it's the opposite. And I can't manage to hold down another relationship because every time I end up just thinking that I wish it was you instead, but you're with my brother.
Yeesh.
So he's sad, she's angry, and they're both drunk. You can
That
imagine
is
where that goes.
not a good combination.
Yeah. So anyway, they screw,
Yeah.
and then the morning after, he immediately is like feels absolutely guilt-ridden, and he's very rude to her, drives her the fuck out. He is very unpleasant about the whole thing. It's basically like get out kind of
Of
deal.
course, because he still can't deal with his feelings, and just because he let them out doesn't mean he'll be able to. Plus, on top of that, he's probably just mad at her for showing up there drunk at all.
Yeah, and unfortunately, she does come clean to his brother. That puts a schism in the family, and he leaves for Sydney. It does not help that his brother has a daughter who is not his brother's.
Mm.
She does not know the kid, but his brother does because he can count.
Because he can count.
Which
That's
did
perfect.
not help things. So they have a very broken relationship. He's fled, and he's only coming back because his mum is dying. But the piano he's bringing back was his grandmother's, then his mother's, then his, and he's bringing it back for the kid. But that involves dealing with a lot of complicated stuff, which isn't helping. So he's got a lot of baggage there that he's dealing with.
Yeah, and it would be really awkward too when normally you could be like, yeah, well, I'm bringing it as your inheritance because, you're not my kid, but you're the kid of the family, and not this time.
Yeah, so his brother thinks he's a coward because of all this, but he also there's a lot of disdain and mixed feelings and things like that. His brother even says at one point, he like it messes him up thinking about it because the only reason he has this kid that he loves is because of what Lucky did and his wife did.
Yeah, something good in his life that he likes that came from a horrible mistake that should have never happened and hurt him terribly.
Yeah, so they've got a lot of baggage. That's what he's dealing with,
Seems legit though. Australians love baggage.
as long as you claim it correctly. Meg, on the other hand, again, big spoilers coming for some big twists, so fair warning, is running from a situation with her dad. Her mum is not in the picture. Her mum has been out of the picture since she was very young. and she is running from her dad, who has gone deep into depression and alcoholism after her brother hung himself.
Oh, I didn't see that part coming.
Yeah, it's her brother's ute.
Oh,
Yeah, which is not great. And she's just been completely overwhelmed and is just fleeing basically because she just needs to get away. There are some other problems in the mix there. For one thing, she found her brother.
oh, great.
Yeah, and couldn't save him, so she's carrying a lot of that. And also, Meg is not 16.
How
Meg
old
is
is she?
13.
Oh, Jesus.
She is
So
told
none
Lucky
of it's
she's
legal
16.
after all.
So Lucky has eventually, it does eventually come out, and Lucky is like, oh my God, I am now trafficking a minor, basically.
I am a kidnapper. I
Yeah,
broke a 13-year-old's arm and then I kidnapped her
in her stolen use
in her
that she
stolen
was
dead
driving.
brother's ute. Oh, God.
So that's season one.
Oh man, I like you know what that does add an extra nice bit of symbolism though, because her her ute, her brother's ute is carrying his mom's upright.
Yep.
So in the same way that despite all the friction, they're kind of carrying each other through this and carrying each other's like precious memories that they need to help move forward.
Yeah, I mean, they are learning things from each other and helping each other through their traumas and things like that. Because even though he is a coward and he's flaky, he ends up continuously helping Meg. You know, because he's not a bad person. He can't help himself, really.
Yeah,
He puts
like he
himself
didn't
in a
have
lot
it
of
in him to steal the truck.
yeah, he puts himself in crazy situations for her benefit fairly often, even though he's frequently pushes her away or runs away or whatever, or even though she does for him, he always comes through for her, and he is becoming the one adult she has in her life who she can depend on and who can support her through all this baggage she's carrying.
She's been very dependable underneath all the cursing and aggression this whole time, anyways, too.
Yeah, I mean, not only is she dependable, helpful, and a healthy bond, it kind of for him, but she's bringing out all of those good qualities in him that he has buried. And because she is so blunt and direct and a force of chaos, she also not only is forcing him to be openly more compassionate and to take care of himself and others more, but she is also forcing him to confront problems because she creates them.
Yeah, she's not allowing him to hide from the world or everything he's dealing with because she's a big part of what he's dealing with now, and she's not gonna go hide under any rock or be quiet about anything.
No, she commits many crimes, she creates many problems, and he is always stuck in the middle of it and forced to confront that in some way. But I love that you talked about the Ute being carried by the piano being carried by the Ute, right? As both symbolic of the way they're helping each other, but also there is a song that's performed by Tim Minchin as Lucky in episode like 5 or 6 called "Carry You."
Oh,
And it is one of the most fucking beautiful songs I have ever heard. He wrote it specifically for Upright. And especially if you know the context like of his situation with his kid, the lyrics in universe it becomes very clear that Lucky wrote this thinking of this kid. But it's also so applicable to Meg's situation with her brother and their situation with each other, their situations with their parents.
yeah.
It's you'll hear it in the most unlikely of places, probably in a lot of ways, especially because it is immediately preceded by a parody of My Humps.
Wow.
It makes sense in context, and it is one of the most like beautiful moments in the show, and it's such a just wonderful song. It's so good.
I can't wait to get there. I'm probably going to be binging some of the rest of it because even though I couldn't binge it the past couple days, I had to watch it through AMC Plus, and I want to watch it. I also don't want to pay after that trial's over.
I get it as well. Like, there's some weird changes in copyright going on right now over here. So season one is available on Tubi, which is free as long as you watch the ads. But then season
What?
two is only available on Binge.
It didn't pop up on Tubi. Oh, wait, maybe it's not on American Tubi. Tubi probably has to deal with all that crap too. Ah,
Yeah, season one is Tubi. Season two is on binge for us. So luckily, I had both of those things available, so I got to watch through season two again. And yeah, season one is mostly focused on Lucky, to be fair, I think. But Meg stuff does come into it a lot. Season two is more evenly split between them, although with a slight lean toward Meg.
good.
It is also a 4 year time skip
Oh,
between the two. I won't, yeah. Some of
I'll be
that,
excited to
I
see
wonder
that.
how much of that was intentional and how much of that was because they were filming stuff like in the middle of COVID.
Hmm.
But basically, season two is they've not really talked at all for yeah, for 4 years basically. They've gone on with their lives because well, for Lucky, it's like he wants to message her. He misses her horribly. But he's like, how do I, as a man in my 40s, contact this literal child?
How do I contact this kid I drove across the desert to say I miss you?
Yeah. And of course, Meg, who is still desperate for having someone in her life to depend on, is always waiting for him to call. But then, yeah, after 4 years, Lucky's gone. He's reestablished his music career. He's not like super famous, but he's a little bit famous now. And he's uh, in a long-term relationship. He's been with a woman for about 18 months, and they're looking to continue. But there's a lot of tension because he's keeping things from her. He can't bring himself to talk about kids, even though she keeps bringing it up because of his situation with his quotation marks niece. And there's also the fact he can't handle dealing with his feelings and problems, so he's also very evasive and flaky. He's developed a bit of an alcohol problem. So, on a day where he's already arguing with his partner, who is actively packing her bags to stay with her mum for a while because he's caused problems with his drunkenness and depression and other issues, Meg shows up on his doorstep after 4 years of not really talking. And she's basically says, "Hey, guess what? I've just found this like letter and picture from my mum that proves that she was around us a lot more recently than I was led to believe."
Oh, is that true?
Yes.
Okay.
And I've narrowed down to where she is. She's around this part of like northern, like sort of Brisbane up to somewhere between Brisbane and northern Queensland, which is a massive amount of space to be fair. I think she just has it as Brisbane at first, and then they like travel all the way up to Cairns and into the Daintree and stuff. And she's basically says, "You're taking me to Brisbane,"
I can't ask anyone else.
and Lucky is like, Billy, who is his quotation marks niece, is going to be here in 4 days. I can't do this. And anyway, then there's more arguments with his partner. There's a second confrontation with some paparazzi. He's basically saying, I have all this stress, I can't just leave, but he's lucky. So he's like, maybe
But
I
he's like,
can.
oh, there's all this stress and I could just leave. I could leave right now.
So Meg kicks the paparazzi guy in the balls and they go to Brisbane.
Oh yeah, kick more paparazzi in the balls.
And Meg begins this like wild goose chase looking for her mum and basically like try to retrace her life until she can find her, dragging Lucky along the whole time, who is becoming progressively more anxious as he can't bring himself to leave Meg, but the time of Billy's arrival is getting closer and closer and closer, and he ends
Yeah.
up and he's him, so he can't bring himself to call and say, "Hey, I might be late." Or whatever, because he's terrified that he'll never get to see Billy again if he fucks this up. So he's avoiding
Yeah, and
dealing with
before
that.
he was only running away from his problems emotionally, but physically at least he was running towards them. Now he is literally running away from his problems as they draw closer.
It only gets more complicated because, as it turns out, Meg is pregnant.
Oh no. I mean, God, at least she's old enough for that to not be as horrific as it would have been in season one.
Yeah,
But
not great. Still a teenage pregnancy. She's briefly followed by her ex, Jackson, who has
oh
followed her
God.
all the way to Brisbane at one point. He's the nicest guy.
Oh,
He's he's a big dumb idiot. and has some very funny interactions with them and with Lucky, but makes us basically like, I don't want to deal with you right now. Just go. I don't want to deal with this. And he
Go
eventually
away.
gets shipped off back to Cullen Gun or whatever it's called in the middle of nowhere.
Oh man.
And they follow the trail of the situation with Lucky's mum. But this is where Lucky ran away to for a while, directly after finding out about Billy, I think. I'm not entirely sure exactly where this happened, if he went there before Sydney or what. But they also keep running into people from Lucky's past
Oof.
who do not have a high opinion of him because
Fair.
of his tendency to run away from trouble and be a screw up. I won't give you the specifics. But, they do eventually find Meg's mum, as it turns out, on this like hippie cult commune in the middle of the rainforest, where she's gotten clean, but is also
That's something.
and is doing much better, but is also part of this weird hippie cult that pretty much borderline. And they lock Lucky and Meg up at one point. Basically, it's this whole mess, and yeah.
Sounds more like a hippie cult.
Yep, exactly. And also, at some point, she had another kid, so she's got a 6-year-old son that Meg didn't know about.
A 6-year-old son born and raised in a cult?
Yep.
Oh
He's
no.
his name's Barley. He's great.
Oh, poor Barley. I'm glad he's doing all right.
Everyone there has plant names. They have to give up
Of
their old
course.
names. And Meg has is grappling like Meg is going there to ostensibly tell her about what happened with her brother, because it's like, I don't know if it's the pregnancy or what, but she basically is like, I am so tired of carrying all of this baggage myself. My dad can't cope it. He keeps going, like, he's not a bad person, but he keeps falling back into the booze. He's trying, but I can't count on him. I can't talk to him about any of this. He hid all this shit from me for so long. You know, I've got no one. The only person I feel like I can depend on a little bit is this screw up Lucky,
This
and
fucking loser over
even
here.
he keeps trying to leave and keeps worrying about his own shit that he doesn't want to deal with and things like that. So she's going there basically to just unload on her mum and share some of the misery around.
She needs someone else to carry. It's, it's funny. It's almost deceptively simple for everything that's going on because the thing she needs more than anything else is almost even less someone to rely on than someone to share the burden. Because she's been able to rely on Lucky overall, but he isn't connected to all this. He doesn't have the same problems as her. So even as she's relying on him, he's not necessarily sharing the burden she has. She needs someone else to take some of it.
Even though he's supporting her, the whole time he's focused on his own problem, the Billy's imminent arrival and his absolute terror dealing with it, because he's grappling with, I can't tell her, but I want to tell her, but I can't. It'll destroy everything. I've just gotten her in my life to an extent, and my brother's threatening to take her away because I'm a bad influence, and
Yeah.
so his journey it continues to be basically learning to actually deal with his problems.
Yeah, the big thing I was getting at though is that also like not only is he dealing with his own stuff, but also he doesn't have a connection to her problems, even if he's helping through them. And like she needs someone to share the burden. She needs someone to be like, "Hey, this should be your problem too.
Yeah,
Help. Do something, even if it's just to feel what I'm feeling."
what she needs is to be able to let go of it all.
Yeah, well, exactly. But like she can't do that as long as she's the only one in her life who's really shouldering it all and dealing with it all.
Yeah, exactly. And, to an extent, the good news is that Lucky is still the same person. He still keeps following her, getting caught up in her shenanigans, even when they try to part ways. It never works that way. I won't tell you how season two, like how all that wraps up and concludes. I'll let you actually get to that and watch that for yourself. I won't spoil that for you or any of our listeners.
Fair.
But I had a really hard time choosing what to actually pick for the topic of this episode. Partly because it's like, well, I don't want to have too much overlap with the other things that people have talked about. We've got two different types of book. We've got a sort of young person aimed cartoon. We've got a documentary series, surprisingly enough. We've got a game in episode one, even we did that. I was like, well, we don't have any like live action TV series, so that helps now. And then I thought of Upright, and I was like, no, you know what? This is a good one to choose because I don't know if it's gonna come up in SAB, and I feel like it's a very esoteric sort of thing that not a lot of people have probably heard of, and it's so good.
It's very one of a kind. It is both literally and figuratively a journey. Like, I don't know. There's a lot to it, but also it just kind of is what it is. It doesn't fit cleanly into enough boxes to have the visibility it deserves, I guess.
It's not like you don't have people in media who have like personality flaws or problems or any of that sort of stuff, right? But there's just something about what Upright does where these people are, yes,
These people are all
damaged.
the way in their problems.
Well, not just that, but they feel very real, right? It's
Yeah.
even though they get into this insane situations, very zany shenanigans, at the core, it would be so easy to just know a person who is going through what they are going through and dealing with it in all the wrong ways, the same way they are.
Yeah, they really pull it off well.
Yeah, it's very poignant and it's believably poignant in a way that media often struggles to be. It's the same reason way back when we on SAB did dramedies. I think that's when we talked about Everything's Gonna Be Okay, which is also from another Australian creator, just saying.
Love Everything's Gonna Be Okay. I lost my ability to watch it the last time I looked for it, and I need to see if I can get a hold of it again and
Yeah,
actually go all the way through it.
because it's the same, but it's the same reason I love that show, right? Is that even though the circumstances and the situations can become quite zany, even more so in Upright, way more so in Upright, the characters themselves at their core feel like real people.
Yeah, they almost don't feel like characters at all. Because they're actually, I think that's the best way I can put it. Because there's a lot of good characters who feel like real people. But these are characters who don't just feel like real people. These are characters who don't feel like characters. It feels almost more like some sort of elaborate joke or hoax where two real people who have their stories just got thrown into this obscene situation where the situation was written by somebody, but the people weren't.
Yeah, or like you're reading a very funnily written, witty biography, autobiography even.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And it's not, and it's like it's not just them either. Every character, even the insane ones, feel like people you could meet if you were to drive across Australia like that. Like the bikies who are simultaneously ready to beat your face in, but also chill with the piano guy.
Yeah. You sat with them and played a little ditty instead of getting into a fight. So you're friends now.
Yeah, exactly. Or, the doctor who won't prescribe them anything because he only believes in wellness, but is trying so hard to do the right thing, even though he's become an absolute obstacle for what they are trying to do and what they need.
And also that, sometimes people are in situations where it's not safe to just try to deal with the problem in your own head, and a little bit of medicine could actually go a long way towards this not getting worse.
I mean, he's so well intentioned. He's trying to do the right thing by Lucky, and he is definitely trying to do the right thing by Meg because he sees the signs and it's like, this looks like an
Oh,
abusive parents.
I loved that conversation so much. It's like, so what happened to your arm? It's just like, oh, swimming, netting. Wait, oh, shit. Mm.
It was like a netball thing, but it was like in the water.
Oh, I love that. Just talking to Meg alone, like, so, did he do that? No, 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 no.
When actually, yes.
Actually, not the way you're imagining he might have, but also literally, yes. actually.
Yeah, at one point, there's this really lovely lady who is fixing the road signs and collecting roadkill up along the highway that Lucky runs into when he's apart from Meg for a bit, who is bonkers but just absolutely lovable, and she just gives him her water and her shoes when he gets out to keep walking.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of other examples. They meet some just absolutely bonkers people, and yet at the same time, those people feel like they could exist.
Mm, very much so. Especially,
I feel like I've met that woman like 3 times.
oh yeah, I also absolutely feel like I have met once or twice and seen many times the pharmacy lady who temporarily closed the pharmacy because the game's on.
Yeah.
She's got to go over to the pub and watch the game with everybody. What do you mean, get your medicine? Fuck
Oh
off, the game
man.
is on. Obviously.
And then she comes out to watch him on the fucking piano.
Yeah. That's just real. It's such perfect small town energy because it's like anywhere else or anyone who's not used to small towns, the very idea is ridiculous. But it is a small community and everybody likes to watch the game. Yeah, what's wrong with you? What, you're trying to do something while the game is on?
Yeah, and they're not only a small independent pharmacy, they're the only one in town. Like, what are you gonna do about it?
And she's probably the only one who works there.
Yeah. It's like, you say you're open Sunday. Yep. You're clearly not open Sunday. I'll be back after the game's finished.
Yeah, so I think she said like I'll be back around 4:30.
Yeah.
Uh, it's perfect. And honestly, has that is one of the things I've liked about Australian media in general. It's far from the only place you can find this type of thing, but the Australian stuff I've watched so far has consistently been kind of irreverent, but there's more to it than that. It's less irreverent and more part of what makes it so believable is, I think, from my experience so far, this is mostly a pretty common thing in Australian culture in general. Not big on airs. No, but most people don't ever want to put on airs. And if you look like you're putting on airs, everyone else is going to be looking at you funny and wondering what's wrong with you. And I feel like that bleeds into the media in the perfect way of there is never any illusion or any desire to put on airs in the first place. This is about telling you a story, not making you feel like you're being told a story.
Yeah, I kind of get that. I mean, obviously, a lot of the way people think of Australia, we're a lot, oh, they're the laid back guy. Like, not really. But
Well, I didn't mean that. I
yeah,
just
but
like,
the like that kind of irreverent tone a lot of our media has absolutely.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, I know you. I've talked to you plenty.
Yeah.
You're not that crass and loud and vulgar or anything
Well,
like that all
vulgar
the
maybe.
time. Oh, you're definitely vulgar. You're just not that flavor of vulgar. You're vulgar the way a writer who knows how to dance is vulgar.
Yeah, fair enough. It's hard for me to explain it in a way because it does have a very uniquely Australian vibe, upright. And I don't know if it's just because I've literally driven along that. Well, I mean, I didn't drive. I was a kid, and also I'm not legally allowed to do that. But like I've been on family road trips along that road. You know, I've been in a car at like 4 a.m. when the Nullarbor is covered in mist and had my sister go, "Hey, did you guys see the big galah?" And everyone else in the car is like, "What the fuck are you talking about? What? There are no birds around right now, are there? Like what?" And then on the way back, seeing the big fucking galah statue, the same one that they point out in Upright, like, "Oh, check that off your bucket list." And we all just went, "Oh, yeah,
I
we've
love
seen it."
moments like that.
And I feel like like a lot of what Upright does, even when it's insane, is it captures that vibe. And to be fair, that's the thing that like road trip stories in general seem to excel at.
That's true, dude. They've really fallen out of popularity over the years. I love road trip movies.
Yeah, I mean, even games, movies, TV series, books, whatever. It seems like there's just so much you can do with a story, which is just group travels from point A to point B have to deal with each other and whatever they come across along the way. And so many amazing stories, if you break it down, are road trips. I argue The Lord of the Rings is a road trip.
Well, I mean, it is. It's Lord of the Rings is one of the ultimate, it's about the journey, not the destination stories, not because of the tone and all that, but because it is actually literally about the journey more than the destination. Like, completely intentionally. God, I can't remember the subtitle, but let's not forget the actual title of the book of Lord of the Rings within the world of Lord of the Rings is There and Back Again. I think A Hobbit's Journey or something like that.
Yeah. And I mean,
Like, I love it.
but that's exactly the spirit of it, right? Is that it's by nature symbolic. There is a literal physical journey happening, but at the same time, the characters are undergoing a personal slash narrative journey. And you know that by the time they get to point B, they are going to have grown and changed as people and presumably overcome a lot of what their personal issue was.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite as a kid at least, and probably most emotionally attached now, road trip movie isn't even about people. It's about two dogs and a cat. 'Cause I love Homeward Bound. It's so good.
That's fair.
Oh man, it's God, they're always such a vibe. It's so easy to get into because I think a lot of people, I'm sure there are exceptions, but so many people I know, myself included, have at least at one point or another always had this unconscious, sometimes conscious desire to romanticize something you're gonna do that can be called a journey. It's really easy to imagine or expect when we are going to be going on something that could be called a journey, that it is going to be a journey in both senses of the word, even though there's a lot of times where we all just go on trips or go to places and fun stuff happens, but nothing fundamentally changes us. But the thought is always there. I think it's a pretty common thing for us as people for a journey to have meaning to us just by being a journey.
I think it's just that wanderlust that a lot of people have that stems back to all the, the stories of explorers and shit that we all grew up on and just human nature or whatever. But I mean, for me, just the reason I think road trip stories like Upright work so well is because they force you to focus on the characters.
Yeah, that the characters absolutely carry it.
So much of the story is just two characters, in the case of Upright anyway, sitting in a vehicle having a conversation,
Yeah,
annoying each other, getting personal with each other, whatever. So much of the story it boils down to just two people sitting in a car having a discussion. And you would think that that would make for very boring media, but it doesn't because, as we've so many times established across the various podcast endeavors we've had at this point, characters are everything to a story, and you get invested in the characters a lot more than the plot. So even if the plot just fades away for a moment, you become enraptured by watching the dynamic between these two damaged, interesting people as they grow past their problems and grow closer to one another.
yeah, and it's got a strong appeal. Hell, there are times that's happened to me in real life where I've just been with a group of people who are talking and dealing with their stuff, specifically things that have nothing to do with me. And even though I could just be there sitting there ignoring it because it has nothing to do with me, that's actually part of the reason why I'm eager to watch and why I'm so curious about everything everyone's going to say. That angle of it, at least, is always going to be there when you're watching a story because it doesn't have anything to do with you. You are just an observer. It's enrapturing.
Oh man, I'm so glad that I picked up right and I got to go back and revisit the story. I binged the whole thing in 2 days. I mean, it's not super long. It's two seasons, each with 8 episodes.
Yeah, so I would say it's like a total of about
And
7 hours.
yeah, each episode is like 25 minutes roughly, give or take.
Yeah. So it's like 7 hours of content altogether.
Yeah,
And it's
about
good
more or
content.
less. And Yeah, I mean, they're just such the characters are so good. The bit characters are hilarious. The overall story is so human and so grounded and well written, even though the situations are so comedically insane.
And I enjoy these characters.
Yeah, I'm really glad you enjoyed it, and I hope that if anyone else has been listening to this, even though I've spoiled a lot of the plot, remember I haven't told you how it ends, just saying, that it's I do hope that I've encouraged at least a couple of people to go and give it a watch because it's so good. And that's not even touching on the fact that the performances are amazing. The music is incredible.
They're so good. The music's really good. And if anyone really is worried about spoilers, let me just tell you, you don't have to worry about that a whole lot with road trips type stories in general because of the whole journey destination thing. Knowing what's going to happen, even in the especially in the just the broad strokes, does not lessen the impact.
And there's so many little things that I've not said anyway.
Yeah, and it's God, I don't know. It's just good. If you're in the US like me, it might be a little hard to watch. I had to go through a couple hoops just to get my
Right now
temporary
it's
ability
tricky.
to watch it.
Right now it's tricky here too, to be fair, but maybe that will be resolved by the time the episode airs.
But yeah, it's worth the watch, especially if it gets easier because it's good. I like these characters. These are some of the best examples I've ever seen of people I would not spend time with willingly in real life, but I sure do like them.
Yeah, so true. But yeah, I suppose we can probably finish up there. I mean, technically you're hosting this episode, but you don't know the outro.
Right. I didn't ask to send that. I forgot.
I mean, let's be real. It's pretty simple. Here's a demonstration. We are gonna wrap that up there, guys. If you were enjoying listening to this, you can also find more of these episodes on my website, radfordwrites.com. You can also find the other podcast I do, mostly with John here, Stories Across Borders there, as well as other stories I've written, articles I post. You can buy my books there, or you can subscribe to my premium service where you can get my access to my books far cheaper, as well as other content like my anthology series Epilogue. And now that I give you that massive spiel about me, you could also, of course, find John participating in a lot of that, but also streaming as Sephia on Twitch and posting the VODs under the same name on YouTube.
I am under that and I do those things. Yes. Doing good work, trying to get better. Oh, God, I wish I was a little better at managing my time, but full time, 40 plus hours a week really doesn't feel like it leaves much. I don't know how the people who like legitimately work two jobs and work 50 or 60 hours a week handle it. It doesn't sound like actually being alive.
Well, maybe you should, like, I don't know, go on a road trip journey of self-discovery with a companion that you don't like at first, but learn to love over time to figure it out.
You know, honestly, if it weren't for the idea that I'm broke enough that there would be no life waiting for me afterwards, I'd be tempted.
All right, well, we're gonna end that there. Bye.
Bye.